Justin Gaethje a while ago was saying he plans to retire if he does not fight Ilia Topuria for the title next.
Ilia Topuria and Justin Gaethje are finally set to meet inside the octagon. Two knockout artists, one cage, and fans already expect chaos. Soon after the UFC 324 matchup news began circulating online, MMA analysts started giving their early thoughts. Among them, the MMA guru discussed where the report came from and why the UFC might be moving in this direction. He explained how reliable the source has been for Ilia Topuria updates and shared his honest opinion about the matchup. After explaining how the news surfaced, Guru gave more thoughts on the matchup itself. He said that while the fight makes sense for business, it might not be the right competitive move. He also shared his expectations for how things could play out once they step inside the cage, and according to him, Ilia Topuria looks ready to make a statement, and Gaethje might be facing danger in this fight.
I think that would be something where you could say, okay, well, at least it's silly, but this is a blockbuster pay-per-view event. But I think this is a bad standard. First of all, I think Ilia Topuria is going to absolutely destroy Justin Gaethje. And you know what? He might be going out there with some vicious intentions, because there's rumors that Ilia Topuria and his wife just broke up. So there's going to be some extra spice on those shots that he's throwing at Justin Gaethje. That could be real interesting to see. We could see a new version of Ilia Topuria, the heartbroken matador who's going out there with that gym energy when you go. And I don't know, dude. This could be dangerous. We might see a real horror show against Justin Gaethje, but I don't think Gaethje's got this one in the bag. I do think that there's a chance that he could pull this off, because he is powerful and durable, and maybe he can drag Ilia into a bit of a war and catch him with one of those uppercuts.
As the discussion continued, Guru shifted focus to Justin Gaethje's recent career run and questioned the reasoning behind his title opportunity. He reminded viewers that Gaethje had already spoken about retirement if he didn't get a title fight next. The Guru pointed out that despite being a big name, Gaethje's recent record doesn't strongly support another title shot against an in-form Ilia Topuria.
Justin Gaethje a while ago was saying he plans to retire if he does not fight Ilia Topuria for the title next. So you're looking at a guy who's on a one-fight win. I nearly said win streak. I nearly said win streak. He's on one fight win. He lost to Max Holloway by KO before that, which he called an exhibition when he was coping about it and saying he'll retire if he doesn't get a title shot. Got KO'd by Max Holloway. Then he came back against Fiziev, won against a guy who stepped in on 2 weeks' notice against him that he's already beaten before, that was ranked, what, number 11, number 10 in the lightweight division at the time. Wins a decision against him. Doesn't even get a finish, by the way. And then what? Now we're giving him a title shot against Ilia Topuria. It's a big name on Ilia's resume if he pulls it off, which I think he will. I think he's going to get a devastating KO.
Following all the rumors and analyst predictions, the UFC seems ready to make the fight official. Reports suggest that Topuria's next contract debut could be scheduled for January in Los Angeles. With Justin Gaethje as the likely opponent, fans and experts are already debating how this matchup could shape up. Many are asking whether this fight could become one of the most exciting of the year. And before the fight was confirmed, fans got a glimpse of Ilia Topuria's new training footage. He looked fast, strong, and focused, practicing sharp strikes and quick movements. Analysts said his skills and preparation show he's serious about the upcoming fight, making him a dangerous challenge for anyone in the octagon. Additionally, Luke Thomas discussed how the fight rumors first emerged and why there is reason to believe it could happen next. He highlighted sources such as Ilia Topuria's team and social media leaks that hinted at the matchup. Then, he began explaining the potential timing and the location of the fight, as well as why it makes sense for the UFC.
You had Renato Moicano sort of suggest that this is what he's hearing, but perhaps more importantly, you had one of Ilia Topuria's managers kind of leak it, so to speak, on social media in a quickly deleted Instagram post, where they kind of suggested that that was going to be next. So between those two, you have at least some reason to believe that that could be next. Now, again, I'm not reporting it as true, but for the purposes of this video, let's assume that, right? Let's assume for the sake of argument that this is the next fight. What are the implications of this? Well, first things first, UFC 322, when this fight would take place, this would be the November card at Madison Square Garden, so New York City. Number one, I definitely think it's a good idea for the UFC to put Ilia Topuria there. I was surprised
Furthermore, discussing the possible timing and location of the fight, Luke explained the risks fighters face when waiting for a big matchup. He highlighted how taking on other fights in the meantime could affect title opportunities. Thomas pointed out that injuries, unexpected results, or UFC matchmaking choices could all change the situation, meaning that fighters like Topuria might have to carefully consider their next move before facing Gaethje.
Do you sit on the sidelines and just wait to see what happens between Gaethje and Ilia? Because that's risky, assuming that, again, we don't really know what's going to happen in the Islam and JDM fight, but assuming that some result there happens that makes the fan base further wish for the Topuria fight, you might get iced out of that. You might get iced out for a long time. But of course, on the other side of that equation, if you take a fight between now and then, they're not probably, in all likelihood, not going to give him a gimme. Maybe they ask him to do the Gamrot fight again. I don't know. I mean, who knows who they might pick for him? But at least in theory, that could blow up in his face, in which case you lose the title shot altogether. But of course, you might just end up waiting, you know, an insanely long amount of time, and then you could get injured and the whole thing blows up. Like, this is the problem.
Meanwhile, Nick Barnhill shifted focus to another exciting fight, Oliveira versus Gamrot. He highlighted Gamrot as someone with real potential. If Gamrot wins his next big fight, he could enter the discussion for a title shot. Fans and analysts are watching closely to see if he can challenge top names like Charles Oliveira and other lightweights in the UFC.
I love watching Fiziev. It kind of sucks that he's had some injuries that plagued his career, and they've had some setbacks in his life, but I really think Gamrot was the other guy coming in with Fiziev about 3 or 4 years ago into the division. You know, they were just being inserted into like the top 10 maybe, and like it looked like they were going to be the guys leading the charge for the future. And you know, whether it's injuries or losses or combination of both, neither of them have gotten there yet. But Gamrot feels like, to me, the kind of guy that could make a statement victory against Charles Oliveira and insert himself right into this.
Barnhill then explained Gamrot's style and strategy. He said Gamrot is strong, standing, and on the ground, using grappling and control to dominate fights, and by studying past fights like Arman Tsarukyan versus Charles Oliveira, Gamrot can use proven tools to handle Oliveira. Winning this way could help him climb rankings, make a statement, and prove he belongs in the top lightweight title conversation.
Logjam of title talk with Ilia, Justin, Arman, Patty. You can throw Mateusz Gamrot right in there if he can beat Charles Oliveira. Recency bias is a real thing. So if you can go out there and beat Charles Oliveira more convincingly than Arman, or let's not get crazy, but more convincingly than Ilia, now you're really making a claim for yourself. And my best thought is that Gamrot is a complete fighter. He's very good on the feet, but he loves to take the fight to the ground and control with some high level grappling. Charles Oliveira, most submissions in UFC history, but at this point in time, Gamrot will be able to take this fight to the ground, and I don't know if we'll see Charles Oliveira, you know, able to find submissions on him. So I think there'll be a lot of ground control time for Gamrot. And I think he's going to probably study the Arman Tsarukyan fight a lot leading into this fight, because Arman had a lot of success against Charles.
Finally, Barnhill discussed Oliveira's current form and how Gamrot could take advantage. He noted Oliveira's last knockout loss might affect his confidence, and if Gamrot secures a fast, clear win, he could push himself into the title discussion and delay others waiting for big fights. This makes Gamrot's upcoming match very important for rankings that could change the lightweight division's landscape in the UFC.
And I think Mateusz has a similar enough style to Arman to use some of those same, you know, tools that worked for Arman to beat Charles Oliveira. And Charles Oliveira can beat anybody. I love Charles Oliveira, and it pains me to say this, but at this stage, and especially after getting devastatingly knocked out by Ilia Topuria, I don't know if he's going to come back the same way, or if he's going to be, you know, a bit timid and scared to engage. And if I'm Mateusz Gamrot, I'm trying to get in there and make a statement early, because if he can get a faster finish over Charles Oliveira than Ilia Topuria, now you might have a new guy jumping into the mix and stalling Arman Tsarukyan one more time before he gets a title shot, stalling, you know, Paddy the Baddy. So yeah, there's a lot on this one, and I think that Charles Oliveira, you know, he's everybody's favorite fighter for a good reason.
Following Nick Barnhill's analysis on how Mateusz Gamrot could make a big statement against Charles Oliveira, Josh Thompson shared his own take on the matchup. He compared Gamrot's style with Rafael Fiziev's, noting how each offers a different kind of challenge for Charles. Thompson explained explained that while Gamrot is strong wrestling and control, his approach might not deliver the same excitement fans expect from Oliveira's striking battles.
I guess both. I think it's the same answer for both.
No, it's not. The Fiziev fight was a better fight for the fans. Because simply put, like Charles Oliveira, sure, he'll wrestle a little bit, but Fiziev's not the easiest guy to take down. The Gamrot fight could potentially lead to Charles Oliveira just being held down for the full fight and it being a boring fight. I don't think he'll be able to do that. I'm simply saying it could end up being that way. Gamrot's goal is to get the takedown, avoid the submissions. It will not be to stand a whole lot, maybe a little bit to enter into the takedowns, but it will not be to stand and trade and bang it out with Charles Oliveira. So for the fans, this is not a better fight. For Charles Oliveira, to me, I believe it is a better fight. I believe that you know what Gamrot wants to do. You know he's going to be forced into shooting and takedowns. You know he's going to, if I put him on his back foot, he will panic a little bit and he will shoot.
Continuing his breakdown, Josh focused on the dangers Charles Oliveira might face in this matchup. He explained that while Oliveira remains the more skilled striker, his durability has become a concern after suffering a recent knockout loss. Thompson added that fighting so soon after that defeat, especially in Rio, could backfire since Oliveira reportedly returned to training too quickly instead of taking proper recovery time.
Not only that, Charles Oliveira is the better striker. Now, the chin does get me a little bit, because he could throw a haymaker off of the takedown and land it, and Charles could go to sleep. What concerns me the most about this fight is because the fight is in Rio, that Charles Oliveira decided to come back so quick after his knockout to Ilia Topuria. And the reason is, it wasn't even so much that he came back so quick and now he's fighting. You know that he went back to the gym and started training within weeks. You should have taken the time. You should have taken the time off, and you know he didn't do it. And that's what scares me a little bit about this fight.
It's an interesting fight. I do agree that I think in all likelihood Gamrot's just going to take him down and hold him down.
After hearing Josh Thompson's analysis, Angelo Bedetti joined the discussion with his own take on Charles Oliveira versus Mateusz Gamrot. He began by addressing concerns about Oliveira's chin and how it has always been a weak spot throughout his career. Despite being dropped by fighters like Justin Gaethje and Dustin Poirier, Oliveira often came back stronger, showing his resilience and finishing power inside the octagon.
The interesting part here, though, is so Charles, you're worried about his chin, understandable. He's been kind of a chinny guy his whole career, and even if he was never put out, he got dropped constantly. Just would always get dropped, and he did it with Justin, he did it with Dustin. He came back and won those fights. He did it in the first Chandler fight, I believe, but he was always dropped. He has the most amount of submission wins in the history of the UFC, not even just this division. So there's a couple of themes here, right? It could be, well, what if Gamrot lands big and clean? I don't see that happening. He's literally never done that. I don't think this fight's going to be any different. Well, what if Gamrot decides to wrestle? Well, on one hand, he could end up just holding Charles down the same way Arman Tsarukyan did. On the other hand, it could just be, Charles finds a submission. That's what he does on the ground. I tend to think that Gamrot's just going to hold him down, but
Angelo then discussed how the fight could play out. He said Gamrot might use his wrestling to hold Charles down, just like Arman Tsarukyan once did. However, Charles could still catch him with a submission or even finish him on the feet. Angelo noted Gamrot has been dropped before by top strikers like Beneil Dariush and Rafael dos Anjos, proving his defense isn't perfect.
There's a much more likely outcome of Charles potentially finishing Gamrot on the feet. If I run through Gamrot's fight history here, he is chinnier than Charles Oliveira is. He was dropped by Garam. He was dropped by Arman Tsarukyan. He was dropped by Beneil Dariush.
Where are you getting these stats?
UFCstats.com.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
He was, and these are official.
I thought you said UFC's website was trash.
Yeah, for the upcoming fights. The stats, data is data. Data is
Okay.
data. And these are official statistics. And knockdowns is a true knockdown, not like a little wobbled on his feet. So he was knocked down by Garam, knocked down by Arman Tsarukyan, knocked down by Beneil Dariush, knocked down by Jalen Turner, knocked down by Rafael dos Anjos.
Those are all really good strikers.
After several analysts gave their opinions, the MMA guru shared his take on the Charles Oliveira versus Mateusz Gamrot fight. He said he's a big fan of Gamrot but believes this is where Oliveira will catch him in a guillotine submission. Guru mentioned that Oliveira wasn't excited about this matchup at first, calling it a difficult stylistic fight for him.
I'm a big fan of Gamrot, but I think this is where Oliveira hurts him and guillotines him and gets a submission. You know them fights where you look... I've been wanting to switch towards Gamrot, but when this fight was announced, and even when... Listen, Oliveira was saying, I don't want to fight Gamrot. It's a different style of matchup for me. I don't really like... But now I think Oliveira was saying, is there no one else? In hindsight, that's probably what Oliveira was meaning, right? Like, is there no other striker at lightweight that wants to step in, Gaethje? Yeah, I'm saying, is there no other striker here? Any lightweight, please, put your hand forward. Anyone in the rankings want to step in? You know, Mauricio Huffy, want to jump in here, take himself out of that fight with Benoit Saint-Denis?
Guru continued by explaining that Oliveira initially hoped to face a striker like Justin Gaethje instead of a grappler like Gamrot, but once it was clear no other top fighters were available, he accepted the matchup. Even when some fans accused Oliveira of avoiding Gamrot, Guru admitted he still believed Oliveira would win because of his superior finishing skills and experience in big fights.
Who's going to jump in? But I think once he realized, okay, there's no other option other than unranked guys, I'll take on Mateusz Gamrot then, okay? It's not my ideal switch up, but if this is the only option, I'm happy to do it. So I kind of jumped the gun on that. But even in that video where I was saying Oliveira's ducking him, what's this statement he's come out with? It's embarrassing, you know, and all of this. Even in that statement I said about him, I even said then, and I think he'd beat Gamrot. So even when my biases of perception of this matchup went a certain way, incorrectly, I still had in my mind that Oliveira was going to win, and I can't switch up on that, even though it's tempting.
He added that although Gamrot is talented, his past fights showed weakness against pressure and elite opponents. Guru said Oliveira's submission game gives him a big advantage in grappling exchanges, unlike Gamrot's previous bouts with Arman Tsarukyan. However, he also expressed concern about Oliveira's recent knockout loss to Ilia Topuria, warning that his chin recovery could play a key role in this upcoming clash.
And he does feel like there's a bit of a changing of the guard going on, and maybe Gamrot will rise to the top here. There's a lot of Gamrot fights that get a little too close for my liking against people that are not Charles Oliveira, man. RDA had him in trouble early at an old age. You know what I mean? Carlos Diego Ferreira was giving him some problems as well. There are people that can deal with that grappling. And Oliveira is going to be comfy in that situation, man. Arman Tsarukyan and Oliveira, the amount of times he nearly caught him in submissions in that fight. Guillotine in round 1, Arman Tsarukyan's shorts fall down. Gamrot and Arman grappled for 5 straight rounds. Some of the best wrestling you'll ever see in MMA. No submission attempts. Nothing getting caught on anyone. Oliveira is that difference. With the guillotines. With the, he nearly had Arman in a triangle at the end of round 2. It was in at the end of round 2. Round 3 had him in a dash choke as well.
Before sharing their opinions, Kamaru Usman and Henry Cejudo talked about how close and tricky this fight could be. They explained that Charles Oliveira's strength is his dangerous grappling, while Mateusz Gamrot relies on non-stop wrestling. Both said this fight won't just be about striking or power, it will come down to who can stay calm, control the pace, and force the other to fight their style.
Henry, you tell me, do you think that Gamrot puts Charles Oliveira away?
I don't think he puts him away. I favor him in this fight. Charles Oliveira's comfortable going to his back, and that's not always a good thing.
It's because of the grappling of Charles Oliveira. A lot of people choose to stand with him. So he's going to have to tweak that a little bit, because now you're going up against a guy who does not mind. He has to go here.
Gamrot is just a basic wrestler, but that's all you need in this damn game. You may get cut by the UFC sooner rather than later, but you'll win. With Hamzat pulling what he's pulled with these dudes, you could lose fans, bro. When you're just wrestling and when you're like, dude, this shit is boring. So you decided to kind of bring in that striker to become...
Did you hit me with a straight? Wait, what?
Gamrot's gonna have to wrestle. Am I wrong?
You're not wrong. No, you're not wrong. Absolutely. Gamrot's going to win this fight. He's gonna have to wrestle at some point.
UFC 324 is shaping up to be explosive. Ilia Topuria and Justin Gaethje will collide in a battle that fans expect to be full of knockouts and non-stop action. Every punch, kick, and takedown could change the fight in an instant. Meanwhile, Charles Oliveira faces Mateusz Gamrot in a clash of grappling and submissions where strategy and patience will be key. Both matchups have huge stakes, with fighters trying to prove they belong at the top. With so much on the line, anything can happen inside the octagon. Who do you think will walk out victorious at UFC 324? Will Topuria shock Gaethje, or will Oliveira show Gamrot why he's one of UFC's most dangerous lightweights? Drop your predictions in the comments below.